CJ McCollum just showed you why the Pelicans didn't trade him. And is Trey Murphy a point guard now? What a fun way to go out before the All-Star break. It's Locked On Pelicans, a Friday episode. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pelicans, your daily New Orleans Pelicans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Pelicans, the daily podcast covering your favorite team, the New Orleans Pelicans and NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, available wherever you get your podcasts and available on YouTube. I'm your host, Pelicans Insider, credential member of the media, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter. Here with y'all on this Friday, day after the Pelicans get off of their 10-game losing streak. Oh, that is words to say, with a 140-133 overtime victory. Almost threw this one away over the Sacramento Kings, and CJ McCollum is a hero here with 43 points, and he proved, it shows you at least, why the Pelicans didn't trade him. I'll break that down in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Trey Murphy's really big performance, but not in the way that you might think. And Karlo Makovic with a really secretly good game. Also, Jeremiah Robinson early was a team performance in this one. We're going to break it down. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So let's get into this one because the hero of the game is CJ McCollum. He straight up carried this team. In the first half of this game, it looked like this second half was going to be pretty awful. Looked like it was going to be pretty rough. In the second quarter, no Zion Williamson playing because it's the second night of a back-to-back. The Pelicans offense vanished. The Sacramento Kings went on a 15-0 run and took full control of this game as New Orleans didn't score a point for over 4 minutes. And then CJ McCollum in the third quarter said, nah, enough with that. Actually, he swore. He swore on the broadcast after the game, which was kind of funny. He said, I need to be more aggressive. And oh boy, did he ever mean it and go out and do it. CJ McCollum carried the Pelicans 19 points in the third quarter. He had 6 points at halftime. He finished with 37 in the second half in overtime. You could argue that CJ McCollum by himself ended the Pelicans' losing streak. It was an insanely impressive performance. It's an insanely impressive performance given that this is someone who's in his mid-30s on the second night of a back-to-back playing heavy minutes to try and go and get a win when the Pelicans don't necessarily need it. And CJ goes, you know what? I'm going to go all out. I'm going to do whatever I can to get this win because players don't want to tank. Players don't try to tank either. They want to win games. At age 33, in the second night of a back-to-back playing heavy minutes, he put up 41 minutes, 43 points in this. He played basically like 80 minutes over the past 2 games, 2 nights. And this is what he went out and did. And if you're like, wait, no, we want to lose games. We want to tank. One game here and there is not going to matter at all in the grand scheme of it. They are right now solidly in the top 5. When it comes to it, really the top 4. One win isn't actively going to hurt them. Now New Orleans is 1-9 in their last 10 games. That is literally the worst mark over the last 10 for any NBA team. They're going to be just fine. Or they're tied with Charlotte, who's also 1-9. They're going to be just fine when it comes to tanking here. But this is a game that shows you why the Pelicans didn't trade CJ McCollum. And there's 2 reasons for this, and they're going to sound kind of contradictory, right? One, they didn't trade him because they want to be competitive next year, and CJ McCollum is still a good basketball player, can still go and do things that he did. He was closing it out in the third and fourth quarter and overtime. 43 points on 16 of 25 shooting, 7 of 12 from 3, 4 of 6 from the line, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and just 2 turnovers on insanely high usage. That is a masterclass performance. If you want to try and win games, you need good basketball players. Him realizing he wasn't playing well and then deciding he was going to take over and then doing that, I dig that. That's going to help you win games next year. Now, you might be saying, where was this CJ McCollum last night when they lost? And does he fit next to Zion in a sense? Can he take 25 shots per game? Does he need to have that to have this kind of impact? And it's somewhat of a valid question, but here's the thing. There's 2 sides to that too. One, you banking on Zion playing every single game next year? You're going to see games where he just doesn't play? look, I think, he's doing all the right things. They're saying all the right things. He could have played tonight. There's just no reason to have him play. But you think he's going to play every game next season? Or are you going to have nights where you're trying to be competitive and you need scoring and Zion's not playing? And CJ McCollum showed that he can do that. And if he doesn't have a ton of value around the league, and with that $33 million contract, it was tough to trade him and no team was just going to take that on. You go and you keep him and you try and be competitive next year. Now, I think it still is up for debate if they should blow it up or not, and if they will or not. So we'll see what happens with that a little bit in the future. But this is why you don't trade him. It's a little bit of insurance for Zion Williamson. And his game is very complimentary for Zion Williamson. He knew what he needed to do in this game, but when he's playing next to Zion, and when Zion was playing like he did in that game the other night, yeah, you don't need CJ doing this. So it's not that he's necessarily streaky. It's he knows his role a little bit here too. And I think that was absolutely a factor into the type of performance that you get from him. Zion was rolling. Zion was doing this. I don't think CJ was going to be taking the shots from him. He's been pretty good about that, which means given that your kind of two main usage guys right now are Zion Williamson and Trey Murphy, and we'll talk about him extensively in the next segment because kind of a weird but also good game from Trey. I don't really know how I feel about it. CJ is the type of guy that will know what to do next year, and then he is an expiring deal. There's talk of potentially extending him too. Something to kind of keep in mind there with all of that, but I think if they want to be competitive, having more talent on the team, and CJ is still talented, is definitely going to do it. He had a very, very good year last year. He's starting to get back into form this year too, and you're seeing him play better and better, and that's what you need to see from him right now. And he definitely delivered in this game. Look, getting a couple wins here and there, even if we want them to tank, even if we know that's the correct move for them to do, is still kind of fun. And to go out on a 1-game winning streak versus an 11-game losing streak just makes you feel better as you hit the All-Star break and have this game. And I don't know, sometimes you just need good feels, good vibes, and it was definitely in this one. It's also loud in the Smoothie King Center. Not the best attended game. You wouldn't have known that. It was loud. When it comes to the Kings, I think I don't know if there's like a rivalry developing. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, given last year, 6-0 against them. But it's fun playing them, and these two teams really get up for it. CJ was like chirping at their bench in that third quarter, in that fourth quarter. Now, the Pelicans almost blew it. Giving up, playing the foul game at the end, up 3, you had Domantas Sabonis hit that one free throw and then missed the second. They grabbed an offensive board, hit the shot, which allowed him to tie it, or hit free throws, which allowed him to tie it. And then the Pelicans missed the game-winning good look from CJ at the end here. They almost tanked incredibly well. Didn't in this one, got the win. I'm cool with it. It's fun to get wins. That's why we're here. And seeing good performances, standout performances like that from CJ McCollum and other players is pretty great. Let me ask you this. Let me know in the comments down below. Did Trey Murphy have a good game? This one was a little bit confusing here for me. Weird stat line from him, but all oddly impactful. Let's break that down coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save thanks to Dash Pass. Every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. So here's how it works. It's really simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order up to $10 off the next day from noon until midnight. So after an epic 50-point performance, CJ's kind of close in this one. Celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered right to your door. Maybe you're staying up late watching other basketball games. So if you have that late night craving, you need a midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Or just lunch on the go. You were up late, you're a little bit tired, now you're moving from meeting to meeting. With Dash Pass, you can get your favorite meals with $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees. Plus, now you save even more with this exclusive NBA offer. So sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off any order the next day, up to $10. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon until midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash.com to learn more. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well and become an everydayer. That means you listen Monday through Friday to Locked On Pelicans. Shout out to all the people who say they're everydayers when I see y'all at the arena here. And for your second listen, go check out Locked On Saints. Kellen Moore's introductory press conference. Did he win it? What did he say about Derek Carr, which was actually kind of enlightening? Locked On Saints, hosted by Ross Jackson, is going to be making sense of everything black and gold. They are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So let's keep talking about this game. Big win for the Pelicans in overtime, 140-33. 133. Wouldn't have gone to overtime otherwise. What a fun game. Honestly, what a fun game. And sometimes that's what you just want. Screw the tanking. Screw those little things for a little bit. Let's just enjoy the moment, and I enjoyed this one tremendously here. Also, only 10 turnovers for New Orleans. It looked like it was going to get ugly, though. And, what I kind of do throughout the game is I kind of plan out the show based on how it's going, what the trends are, and things like that. And when this one was starting to get away from the Pelicans in the first half, and it looked like it started to get kind of ugly here, I was like, is the story of this one going to be CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy needed to step up and they didn't for New Orleans? And then, oh boy, did that turn real fast. So we updated, the structure of the show and what we're going to talk about here. CJ again with 43 points dominating this one. But at one point it looked like Trey was having a pretty bad game, just not making any sort of impact felt out there on the court. And if you look at the scoring numbers from him, kind of bears that out. He's at times the focal point of the offense, him and CJ. That's who it is when Zion's not playing. 18 points for Trey Murphy on 4 of 7 shooting, 1 of 9 from 3. He was pretty off last night too. Now, I got to the line a ton, 12 times, 9 of 12. That's a real encouraging and good number. But the efficiency in terms of shooting, that wasn't really there. So I was ready to come in and be like, look, Trey's good. We believe in Trey. But these are the games where he needs to take over and he needs to dominate. And then you're like, wait a second. He did. 18 points on 17 shot attempts. Yeah, that's not great. But 11 assists, 9 rebounds. He was 1 rebound away from a triple-double here. When you look at the plus-minus, and that tells you what happened. Did they win their minutes? It's ultimately what you're here to do. More on Karlo Makovic, who won his minutes. I want to talk about him and some other things in the next segment here. Trey was a plus 10. I'll take that, right? Like, that's important. Win your minutes. Find a way to contribute. So I think there's, basically this was a bad shooting night for Trey. And then he managed to contribute in other areas. As we said, there's two ways I think you can look at Trey's night here. Contribute in other areas, make an impact, and help your team win. And he did that. One of the things that I thought was particularly smart and impressive from him in the second half and overtime was, hey, CJ's the hot hand. To quote Antonio Daniels, you feed the hot hand, right? Like, get it to him. And the Pelicans do not always do a good job of that. But Trey was looking for CJ in the second half and all of that for him to make that impact and help them win this game here. So overall, that's a really encouraging performance here. For him to go have that impact and do what he needed to do on an off shooting night and help the team win, that's growth as a player. One of the things we're concerned about with Jordan Hawkins, and he was decent enough in this game, by the way, off the bench with 16 points, seeing some shots go in was good. He also had 4 assists, was moving the ball. You can't be one-dimensional. And Trey, really had been, I don't want to say one-dimensional. You saw some growth at the end of last season from him, but he was a shooter. That's what he was. That could dunk on you, yam on you if you closed out too hard on him, and that's fine. But it was somewhat one-dimensional. This season, you're seeing just tremendous, incredible all-around growth in his game to the point that, I didn't ever think he's going to probably have 11 assists in a game. We wanted to focus on his handle to get at the rim and score better, which he's definitely done. Add some rebounding to it. Put on some strength, which he's definitely done. But the passing, the vision, to see that growth from him and be as well-rounded as he is. Your point guard was Jose Alvarado in this game. He was good. 8 assists, 18 points, particularly in the first half. He faded a little bit in the second half. So you needed someone to kind of get the ball moving. And constantly in the second half of this game, you saw the Sacramento Kings in rotation, right? What happens to New Orleans is they're beaten at the point of the attack. Someone gets downhill. Someone then rotates over. And we'll talk about a specific play with this in overtime that Karlo was really the key for. And then you get them rotating, you get them moving, then you find the open man with ball movement. And Trey was doing that. I want to see that from him. The fact that they needed kind of more of a point guard when CJ was in scoring mode, so you need someone to facilitate the ball, and you need it more than just Jose. Trey to come in with 11 assists is an unbelievably impressive performance from him. You'd like him to make an impact in scoring too, but I think this is also him kind of understanding and reading the flow of the game and knowing what he had to do. It wasn't with his shooting when CJ, or his scoring when CJ was doing that. Give it to the hot hand. Pass it to the hot hand. Be selfless like that. And that was absolutely fantastic to see from him in this one. It shows a lot of growth and overall pretty impressive for him. And I was excited about that in this game here. So let's mention a couple of other guys before we get to Karlo. An update on Yves Missi, who left the game hurt, and 2 Herb Jones updates for you, including one that was brought to my attention, didn't think about until literally last night talking with Will Guillory of The Athletic. So I enjoyed what we saw. I liked what we saw from Jose Alvarado. 18 points, 8 assists, faded in the second half. But again, everyone kind of knew it was like, get it to CJ. And they did. So there you go. 18 points, 8 assists. That's what you need from him. Him getting into the starting lineup and putting another point guard out there in the wake of the DeJounte Murray injury is a smart move. That's what they need to do. You very clearly need more of a point guard in this with this team, with this lineup. Jose's been winning his minutes because of that. I like that. That's a good coaching decision here. Also nice to see Jordan Hawkins make an impact in some capacity. He's somewhat one-dimensional, and that definitely hurts him. But to have 16 points, 4 assists in limited minutes, see some shots go in early, and make an impact off the bench was definitely needed from him. Still no Kelly Olynyk in this one either, as he sorts through the visa issue. Jeremiah Robinson-Earl also really deserves a shout-out here. Once Missi went down, your big men are Karlo Makovic and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. Karlo was great, I thought, but you needed someone else to step up too, and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl was the guy. 16 points, 4 of 6 from 3, making an impact with some scoring out there on the court. This is someone who thought he could be traded, earlier in the week, and was maybe nervous about that, and then all of a sudden he's still here. He's making the most out of all those minimum guys. Now that he's still here, though, he feels confident to go out and play pretty hard, and they don't win this game without his contributions off the bench here. While it's CJ scoring 43 points is what led the team, and he carried them, everyone really was a factor into this too, even including Javonte Green making all the hustle plays, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, doing what he needed to do in that starting lineup. So coming up next, Karlo Makovic looked great. There's a specific play where he looked so good, and I'm going to describe it to you. That's coming up here next in today's episode of Locked On Pelicans. Today's episode of Locked On Pelicans is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to bet on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you missed the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you would have made a lot of money tonight. You can stay in on the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love the live betting feature for every sport because it keeps every moment of every game exciting. So whether you're backing your team, the Pelicans, for a late game rally or picking a player, CJ, to hit a clutch 3, you never feel like you missed your chance once the game has already started. And I love that the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And thank you for making Locked On Pelicans your first listen today and every day. We're here Monday through Friday, the #1 Pelicans podcast, covering everything you want to know about this Pelicans team. So please subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Join over 11,000 Pelicans fans on YouTube as well. And become an everydayer. That means you listen to Locked On Pelicans Monday through Friday. And subscribe to the free daily Locked On Pelicans newsletter. It's in your inbox Monday through Friday. Ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to you. It's not just the Pelicans content that I put in. We have some really great NBA writers taking a view of the league as a whole, plus the GOAT, Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball, giving you all the fantasy advice to win your playoffs here. So go subscribe over at lockedondaily.com. So let's wrap up talking about a couple of things here. And I want to start with Karlo Makovic. We were waiting for this kind of game from him, and he played exceptionally well. He looked really good in this one moving. Starting the second half in place of Yves Missi, who left the game with a right knee injury. We did not see Missi on the bench in the second half. We'll get updates on what that is. But Karlo Makovic, in almost 27 minutes of play, 13 points, which is a career high for him, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, 1 of 2 from 3, made both of his free throws, 5 of 6 of the line. 5 of 6 from the field. But it was really a play in overtime where I go, oh. There was a play towards the end that he basically made happen. CJ McCollum got the ball off of a Karlo Makovic screen, kind of on a pin down. He pops up to the top of the three-point line, gets the ball. So it springs CJ, they deny him the ball. Jose passes the ball to Karlo, who comes up to the three-point line, hands it to CJ on a dribble handoff. Immediately on the dribble handoff, they double-team CJ McCollum. So Karlo Makovic does a short roll right about to the free throw line. CJ tosses him the ball. The defense rotates over for the corner. So Karlo's basically at the free throw line with the ball without a defender there till the defender rotates over from Trey Murphy in the corner. So what does Karlo do? Immediately kicks it out to Trey in the corner. Defender who was covering Jose Alvarado, kind of in the wing spot, goes to the corner to contest Trey. They do a good job of that. So Trey passes it to Jose, who's now open. Jose starts to shoot the 3, but the defense gets to him pretty well. It was actually like a decent defensive possession by the Kings. So Jose on the closeout drives an attack, which then draws another big man who's recovered to Karlo Makovic to take away the rim from Jose. Jose dumps the ball off to Karlo, who then puts it up for the layup and scores. Karlo did multiple things in that possession that were really, really great. One, getting the ball, getting up, and giving the screen to CJ McCollum. Then short rolling to the free throw line, where he gets the pass, draws in a defender, makes the right decision to kick it out. At this point, he's kind of done for the most part. What he does from that, though, is he relocates to the dunker spot when he realizes that Jose Alvarado is going to drive. He's giving Jose Alvarado an outlet. That's a lot of, think about the things I said that he did. He set the screen for CJ, got the ball to CJ on a dribble handoff, rolled, passed, relocated, got the pass, and then scored. That's 7 things just in that little sequence right there. Those are all really smart NBA things. He knew what to do. And while he ended up finishing that possession, look at how many people touched that. Jose, Karlo, CJ, Karlo, Trey, Jose, Karlo. It's nuts, right? Like, that's a really great offensive possession. Just well done, well executed, good movement. Things just happening in the moment. That's not a scripted play, right? That's not a call from head coach Willie Green. Karlo did a lot of really good things there. He's been somewhat inconsistent, but he's played decently well. You wouldn't view him as a backup center. That's going to be Kelly Olynyk. But could Karlo be your third center? That's what you're looking at him as. Next season, the answer could be potentially. I'm not sure just yet. We're going to have to look at the makeup of the roster. But it was that sequence on a key play in overtime where he did so many different things and then finished the possession by scoring that makes you wonder if he could be a pretty good NBA player. Now, it's the Kings defense. They're not particularly great here, let's be honest, but I'm happy that he did all of that. That's a lot to do. We just kind of went over all the actions and things that he did in that possession to make it work. And he was doing things like that regularly. There's a lot of hustle and energy and effort from him that is just needed on this team at times. And he really brings that here. If he can get the three-point shooting going, which has not been great this season, he can really make a mark on this team and be the type of big man, or at least a backup big man in some capacity, that the franchise, that the Pelicans really need here. In theory, he fits well next to Zion Williamson. It's the defensive issues that you really worry about, but he shows moments here and there, 3 blocks, 2 steals, that he can do all of that. This team against the Pelicans has a ton of size. So for him to go out and make an impact, block guys, get the ball, that's a really important thing to do. So one more thing that I want to make a note of here. It is official. Herb Jones had surgery. He's out for the season here. Get well, Herb. We hope the recovery goes smoothly. We love you. We want you back. All of the above. This was mentioned to me when I was at the game talking to Will Guillory yesterday, so the first Kings game here. And we were kind of talking about the roster, what to do, chatting, hanging out beforehand. And we were talking about like blowing it up versus not blowing up. And Herb Jones came up and he's like, Herb's eligible for an extension after this season. The problem is with his extension, you can only get one on these kind of early bird extensions, a 50% bonus on your salary. So at $13 million, that puts him in a $20 million range, but could he get more than $20 million a year? I don't really know. And it might depend on his offense next year because, look, I love Herb. We all love Herb. But his offense this year kind of stunk. So would it be smart for him to lock in a $18 to $20 million per year extension? Maybe now, knowing that maybe he's just not going to be the offense, an elite offensive player. The defense is elite, certainly, but you do need to score. Would it be smart for him to do that? Or is he going to be like, I'm going to wait. And I'm going to see if I can put up a big offensive season next year. It's something to kind of keep an eye on as they get into talks about this offseason and as we look at the direction of the franchise here, because that's someone who would have a ton of value around the league. And I'm not saying trade him. I'm not just like trade players because they have value. That's not me. Something to keep an eye on. He's extension eligible. Will he sign one? Will he not? I guess we'll find out kind of pretty soon for everything. So we'll find out. Herb's extension eligible. Want you to know that. Thank you, Will Guillory, for that one. So that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Pelicans, this week of Locked On Pelicans. As always, I'm your host, Jake Madison, at NolaJake on Twitter. Enjoy the weekend. I'll be back with y'all next week. No games. We got a lot to talk about, though. We'll break it all down then. See y'all next time.